hope your coffee is warm today. Aftermath Analyst is an uncommon that's already $2.40 after its Pro Tour Spotlight. This card has a Temur deck named after it because of its strong ability. Being $2.40 isn't too special for uncommons nowadays, but for a card from Karlov Manor, which is a relatively cheap set, this is a great compliment. It's probably so strong because it's an uncommon, which means it's used by the designers to show you the strength of a certain draft archetype. And so it does. Let's look at its strength and flavor, because you are going to see this card for a while. Aside from being a very decent blocker against aggressive decks and milling a bunch, Analyst's strongest ability is its 4-cost sacrifice ability to return all cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. On its own, Aftermath Analyst will be a blocker until it can give you 1 or 2 lands, but paired with more mill, or in the most popular case with sacrificing lands, and you'll pop off. Especially like we're seeing with the new Capenna sack lands, which enter, sacrifice and let you search for a land from its 3 colors. The Pro Tour deck plays 13 of these. If they fail to fetch a land, they will still give you the 1 life per land, and you can keep doing this with new Analysts. Other than that, this deck doesn't run real mill. Note that Analyst is played in Commander a bunch too, where you can play it in land decks like Amzu or in mill decks like the Master, which are already pretty popular kinds of decks. Back to the Pro Tour deck, because there's another uncommon there that has become very popular, Spelunking, a card from Ixalan that was meant to work well with the tapped cave lands, and the Pro Tour deck does play 1 cave. But that's definitely not what this is about. Spelunking lets lands enter the battlefield untapped, meaning that when you sack Analyst and return all lands to your battlefield, usually tapped, they enter untapped now, and you can use them for mana again. Other rarer cards are Nissa from the Aftermath set, which makes it very scarce in the market and bumps its price up way too high, Virtue of Strength, which has a very splashy enchantment effect, and World Soul's Rage, which is just very synergistic in this deck. Nissa's main reason to play is her landfall effect, where she'll give you a mana whenever a land enters. Sack lands trigger this effect twice, and with Analysts often returning more than 5 lands, this will help you pop off. The other side lets you either find other Nissas or an Analyst and put it into your hand, which makes for a very stable 1-2 punch with Nissa and Analyst. Virtue of Strength also has 2 relevant abilities. Its sorcery lets you return a creature or land from your graveyard to your hand, helping you return an Analyst or a World Soul's Rage, for example. Then the 7 mana enchantment triples the mana output of basic lands, basically giving you unlimited mana when unchecked. It isn't uncommon for this deck to play Virtue of Strength for 7 mana and still having 21 mana open afterwards. The most important finisher is World Soul's Rage, which deals X damage to any target, preferably this goes face, but it could be a removal and a value engine, because it also returns X lands from your graveyard or lets you put them in from your hand. Meaning this is basically a light Analyst on top of your win condition. Now you know why Analyst is climbing in price, but there is more to learn about this elf. Well, it's a detective from Karlov Manor, so its flavor is that it solves murders. Sure, but if you know me even a little bit, you know that I've been learning up on Ravnica for some time now. Analyst's art and mechanics evoke the sense that it belongs to the Golgari if it belongs to any guild. There are shrooms in the art, and the Golgari are all about the aftermath, or more precisely, they're all about death, more than any other guilds with elves. The interesting part to me, assuming that this elf is Golgari, is that we haven't seen them care too much about the moment of death, but mostly about the process of it. Also, the Golgari would just send a necromancer to learn from the body, so this murder has a disappeared body in this case. Which is logical because the Golgari would have taken the body or a shroom would have consumed it in a night. So this murder is too late. Now, why are these swirling marks on the floor and on the ruins wall to the left? Well, that's mostly because with Danny Schwartz's art style, there is a certain sense of not showing what you see. And the free hint, play this art style when you're playing an Analyst deck because it's also from Danny. Schwartz is a conceptual artist who doesn't paint what's happening per se, because that would often make for a boring piece. Plus, you have to note what's happening right away, and as an artist for MTG, you need to use the color of the card where possible. If we look at this virtual strength, we would expect art that's about fighting or perhaps carrying something. Instead, the first thing we note is this labyrinth. It's green because it's made by plants, and the plants work really well with the alternate adventure frame from Wilds of Eldraine. But why is going through a labyrinth something that shows strength? The plant structure in the middle is having its roots go through all of the pieces of the labyrinth. You will have to hack through them if you're going to pass. You have to think a bit about the cards from Danny, but this one, for example, does show that you need a lot of strength to get through this maze. And the same thing is sort of true with Analyst. For one, the swirly green things work perfectly to quickly show you that this card is green. Aside from the border, of course. But why are these on a murder scene? They could be the markers, but then why is the elf still looking at them? They must be from the murders themselves. They also emanate a green light, perhaps they're radioactive, or on Ravnica they could be a beaming life force. I assume there was a Golgari ritual here, meaning that this detective is not Golgari at all. A few bodies were sacrificed to feed the ground and all the shrooms that grow around here. One of the bodies might even be hung from the ruin to the right. Now, I kind of feel like the Analyst and have to take a little break. Let me know in which decks do you play this card, and if you don't, I hope you will have learned something about the guy you will see so often in the future. Thank you for watching and have a very nice day.